Hey guys, welcome back. So in this box, I have a brand new Bilt hard 2000 watt quiet inverter generator. And I'm pretty excited about this one. Believe it or not, this is the first new generator that I've ever owned. And I've owned hundreds of generators. So let me get you set up a little better. We'll get this out of the box, check out the features, and put it to the test. All right, I moved it up here to the bench so you can get a better look at it. So besides the generator itself, there are a few other things in the box. And I guess first off, and probably most useful, is this funnel here with the hose attached. If you've ever changed oil on an inverter, you know it's a messy job, so this will come in quite handy. We also have this battery charger. Plugs in right there. It'll charge your battery at a rate of about 8 amps, which is pretty standard on these. And we have a toolkit. It came with a spark plug removal tool, which is good because standard tools usually don't fit in inverters. And we also have a screwdriver and a wrench, no doubt for servicing inside if you need to. Aside from that, we have a manual and a plug. So here's a look on the control panel side of things, and this is a pretty standard setup. Here we have the on-off switch as well as the choke, a set of status indicators indicating if you're low on oil, overload, or power output. If you do overload it, you can reset it by hitting this button. And this here is the idle control. You want this off for starting, which is the position it's in, but when you turn it on, it'll idle down and save gas and reduce the noise. This generator can be paralleled using these ports here. We have a standard 120 volt outlet, and this is the DC side of things. So this is where you hook up the battery charger, and we also have 2 USB ports right there, as well as a circuit breaker. Here on the side of the generator, we have the starter recoil. We also have an access panel for the spark plug, and on the top is the fuel cap with the vent. So one thing I noticed right away, and this is more from a serviceability standpoint, is that this panel is completely removable just by removing a couple screws. And I don't see that often. It's like that on both sides, so you can get really good access, if you need it, to the engine and everything else inside. And on this side, you have the access door to the oil fill, and it's kind of nice. You don't need a tool to gain access. Anyway, I'm going to use the provided tools. I'm just going to remove these screws right here. I want to pull this panel off so we can get a better look inside. We have some good insulation here. Usually most inverters don't have insulation this good. I think the only one I've seen one like this is the Yamaha inverter. Anyway, another nice feature, these screws here have a retainer so they won't fall out and get lost. This appears to be a very typical setup for an inverter generator. Starting on the right, we have the inverter module itself. The fuel tank is up here. We have complete access to the carburetor, the air filter, and the oil fill. Now this unit might be gravity fed, which actually is a good thing. Most inverters have a fuel pump, and that makes starting them kind of difficult because you do have to pull it a good 5 or 10 times to kind of prime the system. But if you look here, the top of the bowl is right there, and the bottom of the tank is actually a little bit higher. So if that's the case, this should be easier to start than most. Anyway, I'm going to turn this around. I want to pull the panel off on the other side. All right, and not too much to see really on this side. We have what looks to be a low oil module and maybe better access to the starter recoil, but that's about it. I can see too the engine is like a split block design, very similar to what you would see in a Honda inverter. Since this is a new engine, I am going to break it in, before load testing it. So I'm going to start with just 10W30 oil. This is mineral oil, not synthetic. Once it's broken in, definitely use synthetic, but until that happens, you should use mineral oil. Now, if you ask 100 different people how to break in this engine, you'll probably get 100 different answers. But the important thing to remember is that these small engines do not have an oil filter. So during break-in, you are going to get metal in that oil. So you don't want to leave the oil in there too long during the break-in period. So I'm going to start off just running it for about half an hour with no load. Bring it in, we'll change the oil, put some more clean oil in, probably run it for another hour, might repeat that a couple times, and then we'll do a load test. So I'll turn you on for the initial startup. We'll check the sound output in decibels and the power output. And then I'll probably cut the video at that point, complete the break-in, and then we'll start the load testing. I'm going to pull the spark plug out. We'll put a little bit of oil in the cylinder just so that the top end does not start dry. We're just about ready to fire this thing up. A few things to do here. First, open the vent on the cap. Since this is gravity fed, I'm going to switch this to on. It'll give the carburetor a chance to fill up. And normally you want to start with eco throttle off, but at least for the initial break-in, I'm going to put that to on. It'll run the engine a bit slower, and then after the initial oil change, we'll run it faster. Okay, looks good. Started right up and no issues to report. So let's check the power output. $122.6 volts, exactly 60 hertz. Now I did hook up an oscilloscope so you could take a look at the sine wave, and it's a little bit hard to see out here, but I think it comes through. This unit, it's producing a very nice, clean sine wave. This is coming in very quiet. It's advertised as a 65 decibel machine, but you can see without a load, with the idle control on, we're coming in really low at about 52 decibels. Okay, well the plan was to just tip it and drain all the oil into this pan, but usually you make a huge mess when you do that. And I don't see this one being much different. I mean, there is kind of a gutter here to guide the oil, but it is short by about ½ inch. So what's going to happen is a lot of that oil is going to go right into the case, which I don't want to do. So I'm going to use a transfer pump. We'll try to get every bit of that out and get some fresh stuff in there. All right, I see nothing concerning in this break-in oil. No shiny bits, no pieces of metal, so it's looking pretty good. Anyway, I'm going to run this for about another hour. I might apply a light load to it during that time. I'm not going to show you that part of the process. I'll just turn you back on once this is fully broken in, and we'll do some load testing. And just an interesting comparison here. I've got the Honda hooked up under the same conditions as the one made by Bilt Hard. Let's see how loud this one is. Yeah, and the Honda's not much difference. I mean, we're at 52 decibels. They're pretty much the same. Okay, we're at the 1 hour mark, and I have the Eco switch off with the 450 watt load, and it's still running pretty quiet at about 59 decibels. Yeah, still absolutely no concerns here. There is no glitter in this oil, no bits of metal. Things are looking pretty good. So I'm going to cut it here. I'm going to break it in a bit more, and let's skip ahead to the load tests. Okay, and now for the final test. I've got the space heater right here. It can run at 750 watts as well as 1500 watts. So we'll start at 750, then we'll bump it up to 1500, which is close to the continuous output that this generator can do. Now I have all this hooked up to a 12 gauge cord that can handle 20 amps. And since this generator is limited to about 17 amps, we should be fine. So once we're at 1500 watts, I also have these two lights. They're 70 watts each, and these fans. Each one is about 100 watts, which will exceed the rated load on this generator. So let's see what happens. Okay, we're at 759 watts, 119.2 volts, and 60 hertz. Let's try 1500 watts. Okay, we're at 1,427 watts, 116.5 volts. Exactly 60 hertz. Let's bump that up a bit, closer to the max. All right, 1,547 watts, 115.9 volts, 60 hertz. The max load, we're close to 70 decibels. All right, so now I'm going to exceed the max rated load on this. I'm going to turn on the extra fan and that light. That this generator should not be able to do for more than a few seconds. And I think you can see the overload light is lit. And the voltage has dropped. We're at 107.9 volts, 1,475 watts. 60 hertz. Okay, overall, this generator did a great job. It delivered the 1600 watts as advertised and even handled an overload without shutting down. So, not too bad. And at least at the time of filming, this is probably the most affordable 2000 watt inverter generator listed on Amazon. So I didn't know what to expect, but I've got to say, it did a good job. And I would recommend this to anyone considering an inverter generator. So I hope this video helps someone. Thanks for watching.